Hello and welcome to today's episode of Daily Current Affairs with Sathya sir. This is me, Satyanarayan from IQ Ideas, and I bring you current affair updates and important news articles from a leading daily newspaper. I also point out interesting articles that you can read for improving your reading comprehension and words of vocabulary. Today is the 1st of August 2025, and without further ado, let's jump into the news headlines of today. As I open the newspaper, the biggest news headline that I see is the acquittal of all the accused in the Malegaon case. So, what exactly is this case about? Let's read. Okay, so the Malegaon bomb blast case was basically a bomb was allegedly placed in a parked motorbike and exploded in Malegaon in 2008 September, killing 6 and injuring 101. The probe moved from Mumbai ATS to the NIA, and 7 accused were put on trial. In 2000, initial probe focused on Islamist terrorism, and later ATS pointed at saffron extremists. In 2015, the prosecutor alleged NIA asked her to go soft on the accused. In 2016, NIA accused ATS of planting RDX traces to frame Purohit and found no evidence against Pragya and the others. In 2017, the special NIA court dropped Makoka charges and said all 7 to be tried under UAPA. And now finally we have the news that all those who were accused in this case have been acquitted. And in fact, it says that suspicion can't replace proof. The NIA court highlights mishandling of crime scene, retraction by witnesses, and planting of evidence. So, citing lack of cogent, reliable, and acceptable evidence, a special NIA court acquitted on Thursday all the 7 accused in 2008 Malegaon bomb blast case, including the former BJP MP Pragya Singh Thakur and Lieutenant Colonel Prasad Purohit. Right, so this is a very interesting piece of news, but let's see whether the real perpetrators will be found and brought to justice. In other news, we have yet another controversial statement by President Donald Trump, where the news headlines read that new dead economies like India and Russia can go down together. This is the statement made by US President Donald Trump. So, irked by India's dogged refusal to conclude a trade deal on his terms, the US President Donald Trump on Wednesday taunted New Delhi by weaponizing an oil exploration deal with Pakistan, jibing that Islamabad may be selling oil to India someday. At the same time, frustrated by the inability to force Moscow to end its war on Ukraine, he also petulantly unloaded on India for buying oil from Russia, saying, I don't care what India does with Russia, they can take their dead economies down together for all I care. So, pretty, I would say, unparliamentary words, not the kind of statement that you would expect a person of his stature to do. But then, does it really surprise us? But a couple of very interesting words in this particular news article. One is the word irked, which means irritated. Then we have a jibe. A jibe is a sharp retort or something when you're poking fun at somebody or when you're using sharp words against somebody. That is a jibe. And then we also have another word, petulant. So, petulant literally means behaving like a small child, throwing tantrums, and so on and so forth. Of course, in wake of this such statements, the Indian government on Thursday reiterated that India would not compromise on the interest of farmers, while Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal pointed out that India was the fastest growing major economy in the world. So, not exactly, I mean, the statement made by Trump doesn't exactly match out the reality on ground. But nevertheless, any such statement by one of the world's biggest powers, both in terms of economy and military, cannot be taken lightly. Okay. The next news on the main page itself is an observation by the Supreme Court, which says the Parliament must review the speaker's powers under anti-defection law. Okay. So, to defect means to go from one party to another. So, if you are a defector to your organization, that means you have, in a wrongful way, gone out from the current party that you are in and gone to another party. So, this law is about uh, parliamentarians or members of party moving from one party to the other. So, in a significant judgment, the Supreme Court on Thursday said to protect the foundations of democracy, Parliament must take a call on the effectiveness of the anti defection law mechanism, which has been virtually blunted due to the widely perceived partisanship of speakers, leading to delays in deciding disqualification petitions against political turncoats. Okay, so couple of very interesting words in this as well. One, partisan, belonging to a party. A turncoat is a traitor, or literally what we call a gaddar, right? So couple of three interesting headlines we got from the front page itself. Let's move on to the further news. The city page does not have any nationally relevant news. Uh, Moving on to the state page, many of it is crime related, again, of not much national importance. Okay. Uh, Coming to the nation page, we have some update on that statement. So, President Donald Trump, of course, the news article itself was talking about having some sort of an oil deal with Pakistan. So, this article reads Trump's Pakistan oil deal more strategic than realistic. So, US President Trump announces deal to develop Pakistan's, and this has to be in quotes, massive oil reserves. Okay. So, US President Donald Trump's announcement of a deal to develop Pakistan's massive oil reserves sounds more like a strategic maneuver on the South Asian chessboard to counter Islamabad's growing dependence on Beijing rather than a realistic assessment of the country's immediate hydrocarbon potential. Various estimates peg Pakistan's proven reserves of conventional oil at zero point 0.2 billion barrels and natural gas at 529.5 billion cubic meters. This appear modest even when compared to India, which at last count was estimated to have oil reserves of about 4.8 billion barrels and natural gas reserves of 1,149 billion cubic meters. Okay. Uh, uh, Another inset in that headline says India's purchase of Russian oil is a point of irritation in ties. Of course, it's very well known that US and Russia have never been the best of friends. In fact, history readers would remember the entire Cold War era and how US and Russia have always been, so to say, enemies. India, of course, has been a neutral party. In fact, we believe in non alignment. But nevertheless, Russia, the erstwhile USSR, has always proven to be a good friend to us. Whereas in recent times, the, especially the 25% tariff by US President Donald Trump doesn't seem to be doing anything to improve relations between India and US. So, India's purchase of Russian oil are helping to sustain Moscow's war efforts in Ukraine and is a point of irritation in New Delhi's relationship with Washington, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Thursday. Okay, that's very interesting to read. On the dead economy dialogue, on the dead economy quote or remark by Trump, of course, the opposition of our own country has to latch onto it and give some statement. So, this article's headline reads Trump right on dead economy, remarks Rahul blames Modi. So, leader of the opposition and Congress Neta Rahul Gandhi said US President Donald Trump has stated a fact that India has a dead economy, asserting that the BJP government is running the country to the ground because PM Narendra Modi works for just one person, Adani. Claiming there is total confusion in quotes, Rahul said the Modi government has destroyed the economic policy, foreign policy, and defense policy of India, and Modi does not know how to run the country. Pretty strong words for somebody who is supposed to be the leader of the opposition to the Indian government. Okay. The next nation page just has some update on the SIR, the Special Intensive Revision of the electoral rolls ahead of the Bihar poll. And uh, you have 1 month to add and scrap names from rolls. Copies of the draft electoral roll to be given to all parties is what the Chief Election Commission has said. Okay, so let's see how things progress on that end. Uh, the next nation page has a couple of interesting articles. One is the country's second indigenous multi-role stealth frigate Himgiri joins Navy. So anything related to the armed forces, especially induction of new vehicles and weapons, is of great interest. So another indigenous, the word indigenous means something which has been locally developed within the country itself, or something, or indigenous literally means something which is native to the place. So another indigenous multi-role stealth frigate, Himgiri, was delivered to the Navy on Thursday that will boost the country's blue water combat capabilities. This is the second such stealth warship to be handed over to the force this month. Great news. And then, of course, we have tariff is a bargaining tactic by Tharoor. So, on a day when the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha endorsed US President Donald Trump's dead economy remark, Congress leader Rajiv Shukla refuted Trump's view, saying he was wrong, even as party Lok Sabha MP Shashi Tharoor held that US's imposition of 25% tariff and penalties may just be a bargaining tactic, given that trade negotiations are on between the two countries. Leaders of the same party not having the same line. Well, the leader is saying something, other prominent members of the party taking another line. Less said, the better. Moving on, the next nation page, of course, has a continuation of the news of the acquittal of all accused in the Malagaon case. And the title just reads, Witnesses' testimonies riddled with material inconsistencies. Next page is my favorite, the middle page, and today the column happens to be longer than usual, and of course related to Donald Trump. This is by Gautam Bambawale, and it's in fact it's by Gautam Bambawale and R Jagannathan. So I think a view and counter view type of opinion maybe. Anyway, the title is How to Deal with Him. And here are the tips. Don't get riled. The word riled means all worked up, right? Don't get agitated. Don't retreat from red lines in trade talks. Remember, India withstood earlier hostile US action. Keep talking to him, but fast track other trade talks. Retaliate if he targets service exports. Plan for worst case impact on growth. Give domestic stimulus if exports take a big hit. So students interested in international politics, business, trade, finance should definitely be reading both viewpoints as expressed by the two gentlemen in this long column. Coming to the three things on the left, one, Trump again. Trump, not yet. He may rant, but the road to a trade pact is open. India should study how Japan, European Union, South Korea did it. Below that, well judged. The Supreme Court is right in withdrawing own order in Bhushan Steel, but Government of India must fine-tune aspects of insolvency law. The second article would definitely be something which law aspirants, CLAT writers should be reading. In fact, today being the 1st of August, a quick update for law aspirants who are planning to write the common law admission test this year. The application forms have opened. You can visit the official website consortiumofnlus.ac.in and start the application process. And of course, the third column, the humor column by Jag Suraya, Jugular Vein, with the title Illegal Bengali. People who speak that Indian language face deportation from Gurgaon and other parts of the country. So a humorous take on the language issues going on. Okay. We quickly move on to the next page, which is a special. On one side, we have with money in this piggy bank, Gujarat kids are funding college education. So, a unique savings and cooperative credit society is enabling kids to save small amounts. The Children's Bank, with nearly 30,000 members, has deposits amounting to more than rupees 30 crores. Human interest article, definitely worth reading. Next article, this NIA is probing ancient Indian medicine. Okay, so NIA in this article is the National Institute of Ayurveda, and seems to be an interesting article on rare manuscripts and Ayurveda. Okay. The next is the business page, which people interested in business management, finance, and economy will be reading with great interest. I simply move on. Coming to the global page, uh, a pronouncement by Donald Trump who says tariffs are making America great and rich again. Uh, Trump tells Russian officials to watch his words, but he bites back instead. Trump wants deal to end Russia's war in Ukraine by August 8. US tells the UN. Okay. Then there's an article on why India's new bunker buster missile has rattled Pakistan. Okay, let's read the byline. It says reports on India's new missile programs surfaced in June, shortly after the US airstrikes on Iranian nuclear sites. A Pakistani expert now speculates that the Indian missile could be aimed at the neighboring country. In other news, Canada plans to recognize Palestinian state, raising allies' pressure on Israel. So, very interesting news articles in the global page which can be read. We come to the sports page where we have some update on the ongoing test series between India and England, which I believe is nearing its end, and a couple of swimming related articles. The last page, the sports section, of course, has an interview by Divya Deshmukh, who recently won the FIDE Women's Chess Championship, became India's fourth woman and 88th Grand Master. And of course, other relevant information for news, for sports fans. So that pretty much brings us to an end of today's edition. If you liked all this information, do hit that like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Do leave comments below to reach out to me. Here's wishing you all the very best. Have a good day.